Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is April 5th, Cinco de Mayo, and we are 48 days into the lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic. We have a really great show today, especially in light of the fact that liquor stores seem to be essential and they remain open during this pandemic. But tell you what's not essential, and that's hangovers. And maybe we don't have to have them. If we imbibe. We're going to get into that in a little bit with my guests, Dr. Daryl Davies and Joshua Silva, in just a moment. But first, we have to acknowledge and pay homage to our title sponsor, Legendary Foods. Legendary Foods is the title sponsor of this show, and I'm proud of that because they make great products. And the reason they're so great is because they have no added sugar, and some have no sugar at all. Their seasoned nuts obviously don't have any sugar added, and their nut butters taste sweet and decadent, like blueberry cinnamon bun, but they have no added sugar at all. And they're fantastic. Good for the kids, good for you, great snacks, healthy choices. And let's not forget their tasty pastry, which is a Pop-Tart upgraded. It basically is a toasted pastry like a Pop-Tart, looks like a Pop-Tart. Tastes better than a Pop-Tart, has 9 grams of high-quality, high-leucine protein, less than 1 gram of sugar. These products are great. If you go to eatlegendary.com and use code SHR10, you'll save 10% off all of your purchases. Check them out and show them some love. And for those of you tuning in, start a watch party. Right below our screen on Facebook, you will see an image or a button that says watch party. Just click that and have friends of yours join the show to learn more. I'm being joined by my guests now, and that is Dr. Daryl Davies and Joshua Silva. How are you guys doing?
Well, I was doing pretty good, Carl, but you made me hungry with that little invite from Legendary Foods. So,
Dr. Davies, these are good products to eat if you're concerned about consuming too much sugar. This company is amazing. The founders of this company are the original founders of Quest Nutrition. Quest Nutrition was sold last year to the company that owns Atkins. And now they've started this company, and they continue with this mission of making healthy snacks for people. It's fantastic. You'll love them if you check them out.
Yeah, no, they sound really good. I mean, I instantly got hungry for. I like that Pop-Tart idea. That sounded great for myself and my kids. So
I take their Pop-Tart. I take 2 Pop-Tarts and I smear one of their nut butters on it, and then I make a sandwich out of it. I've even seen people put ice cream, like these zero sugar ice creams that are out there now, and make ice cream sandwiches out of the tasty pastries. It's out of this world. It's really, and you can't believe, you don't feel like you're you feel like you're cheating, but you're really not, because these are actually good for you.
Yeah. Well, you got me sold. I'm going to give them a try.
Okay. So now let's talk about something a bit more important. My audience knows that once in a while, I like to empty a few Negronis. Being Italian, I like to drink. My grandparents gave me wine with my pastina before I started in school. So, I've been drinking for a long time, and it's not something I'm going to give up. I know the risks of consuming alcohol. I accept those risks. I don't do it frequently, but I don't lie to myself and say, oh, alcohol is good for you, like a lot of people want to convince you. But you guys have actually maybe found a way where it is actually less damaging. Let's talk about the impact of alcohol, first of all. You want to start with this, Dr. Davies, the toll in the United States from alcohol?
Sure. So I'm really glad to have this opportunity, Carl. First off, because normally these types of interviews I have are like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and we really don't get to talk much about this. But we've been hearing so much about COVID, and it is taking a dire consequence on our economy and on lives in the country. But just look at this first little bullet that you've got showing. Every year, alcoholism and alcohol abuse in this country alone takes about 88,000 lives. It's the third leading cause of preventable death in the United States. So you can think of the others. Smoking, right? And we've actually made some inroads on smoking until, unfortunately, vaping came along about 10 years ago, and the tobacco industry instantly started buying up the vaping apparatus because they figured out, wow, this is a good way to redo this. But the same has happened, and we'll talk more about this later on. The distillers of America also, and of the world, because they make products, they have to sell the products. I enjoy alcohol.
Big money. It's big money.
I was born and raised in San Pedro, California, which is a good Slav and Italian town. There's still lots of good Italian friends. We drink lots of La Mesa wine, for example, and that's good. But what happens when you do it in excess? And that's when it starts to cause lots of problems. And we're going to talk more about hangover today. And people don't even think of hangover as a disease. And interestingly, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but Germany, in the German courts, Supreme Court of Germany just recently ruled against a case that a company selling hangover products, they recently ruled that hangover is now considered, they've ruled it is a disease in Germany, which is going to make it harder to sell natural products as for treating hangover because now you're saying you're treating a disease.
Yeah, now you're an orphan drug now. And that's an important distinction because globally, alcohol consumption contributes to 3 million deaths each year. Since we're also sensitive to mortality right now and comorbidities, and we're hearing all them, people are finally going, wow, we lose 60,000 people a year to the seasonal flu. Well, we lose 3 million people a year globally due to alcohol-related deaths. That's bizarre.
Sometimes when I preface some of my conversations, for example, because another area I'm interested in, of course, is I do neurodegenerative diseases, and that includes Alzheimer's. And so actually we're working on DHM with my colleague, Dr. Jing Lang at USC, to develop DHM for Alzheimer's. And that's actually our one of our really great interests because we've shown really promising outcome. But I preface it right away when we talk about the cost to human life and societal cost. When I go to these Alzheimer's talks and I stand up and say, that's really terrible the way that's going to cost this in 20 years, 10 years from now, what's going to cost the country. But let me tell you, alcoholism costs that right now. And no one's talking about it, or very few. I mean, when I go to an alcohol meeting, we all talk about it, but it's one of the smaller institutes, one of the smallest funded NIH institutes. Everyone enjoys drinking, but because of the stigma attached to alcoholism, we just keep ignoring the side effects and the consequences. We have not faced up to the fact that this is a serious disease and it has to be considered as such.
So, Joshua, the CDC estimates that it costs taxpayers in this country $249 billion a year because of excessive drinking. And it's basically considered, it's a social thing. It's like it's not looked down upon. In fact, people who refrain from drinking are looked upon like as though, what are you up to? I remember that saying, never trust a man who doesn't drink.
Yep. Yeah. So, in the United States, there's a huge cultural acceptance of alcohol consumption. It's very much associated with socializing. So, there is a stigma for individuals who are at a party, they aren't consuming alcohol with the rest of the group. And so, it seems to be of a different effect. But when it comes to the disease relation, there's also that kind of stigma of trying to relate it towards those aspects of, say, alcohol use disorder, or alcohol liver disease. But you're correct. It's definitely something that we're wide accepted for social aspects.
So this molecule that you studied, talk about the research. First of all, what preceded this that made you get on this trail in the first place? And either one of you, whoever wants to answer that, can do that.
So let me preface this that I've been an NIAAA, National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, funded researcher for the past 15, 20 years, I guess. And I was trained as a graduate student as a second career. So for some of your audience, realize that I did 17 years in the retail industry, grocery industry, which is a really hard industry to make a profit in. As a worker, you learn a lot about business when you're in the retail. And so I brought that business background with me into my training as a graduate student. And then I I got interested in alcohol research, but the majority of my focus for the last 20 years was developing or understanding targets for alcohol action. What are the targets in the brain? And then in the last 10 years, trying to repurpose or develop pharmaceuticals to help treat alcoholism. But that's a long, long path to develop a new molecule from discovery to market, 10, 15 years, $1 billion or more in some cases. And Big Pharma is not interested, has not shown a lot of interest for alcoholism. About 8, 9 years ago, one of my colleagues at UCLA, Dr. Richard Olson, and a colleague of one of his co-workers, co-scientists in his lab, Dr. Jing Lang, and I met at an RSA, a alcohol meeting, and we started talking about, she did her original training in China. She's been in the United States for about 20 years. She did her MD training in China, her PhD training in Japan, has a very keen instinct on natural products, these Chinese traditional medicines. And we started looking at these, and she'd been working on these for maybe 15 years. And I got really interested because these are natural products, and you read the Chinese literature, and this product does that, this product does that, blah, 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 all these great things. But it's a lot of hocus pocus. It's a lot of,
I know.
In the original Chinese literature, you actually went to your village shaman, your village person that would mix these spices together.
And there was no standardization. You know, they identified these different categories of plant sources by the way they looked. They had no idea what the active ingredients were, but they thought that they worked, and there was some effect. And sometimes it could be placebo or nocebo that's actually doing it, right?
Right. So lots of different explanations. And so I put my science hat on. I'm a scientist, and scientists by nature, those of us that are in the discovery side, are just naturally inquisitive. We ask, well, why does it work? Why is this literature, 500 years of literature, is this all BS? It's hard to believe that you'd have 500 years of this literature and there'd be nothing to it. And it talks about liver protective effects. We'll talk about morning recovery later in the show, but there was all this indication of this dihydromycetin, which is a flavonoid, and having this beneficial effect to reduce alcohol intake. That's how I first got involved with it. And more for the CNS, talking about the brain. It reduces urge, it reduces alcohol intake, but it had other properties. And one of those properties was liver. It was reported to have some liver protective effects. And I was saying to myself, how does this flavonoid, there's lots of flavonoids out there, and lots of people have looked at flavonoids. How could it be that this drug, this molecule does this, it does that? It's just, what's going on? And so I put my scientist hat on, and then Josh came to join my lab as a PhD student. He's a very, very bright, hardworking PhD student, and he had an interest in liver. I wasn't a liver person. I'm a CNS person. And he had this interest in liver, and we got together with my colleague, Dr. Lang at USC School of Pharmacy. Got to plug my school. That's where I work. I get paid to work here. Or I did before COVID. Now we're doing very little lab work. We hope to get back soon.
But hey, we can still drink and test the stuff. You know what I mean?
We can still drink it. You bet. We can still drink it. But I started to get interested in liver, and I said, okay, we partnered with this company, this Moore Labs, that developed this morning recovery using the original formulation. Actually came from Jing. Was Jing's formulation, and I think they've modified it since then. But I said, you know what? They can sell it as a hangover remedy, and there's lots of other these dihydromycetin products on the market for hangover. I want to know if they work, why they work. What are they doing to relieve hangover? And that's what brought us to today's conversation as we started looking at the mechanisms of how the primary active ingredient, dihydromycetin, how does it work? And why does it alleviate hangover? And we had some really exciting initial data that was, wow, this is acting on a lot of interesting targets that would explain not only its potential as an anti-alcohol or a liver protective, but also how it might be working for Alzheimer's and some of these other areas that we've now associated DHM with. As we started looking closer and closer at the different proteins it affected, the different organelles that it affected, the mitochondrial, how it's acting on to increase mitochondrial bioenergetics. Some of your listeners, I'm sure, are quite familiar with mitochondrial bioenergetics. Yourself as a power lifter, you would have seen a lot of that activity in some of your power drinks originally. And so that really got us. And so now we put our science hat on, and we want to share the good news, and we want to get to better understand the molecule, to make it a more effective molecule, and to try to promote its use where necessary.
Well, and I want to expand on its use for a second, right? So we now understand from well-done research that there's a large portion of our population that have yeast and fungal infections in their gut. And when they eat sugar-based foods and starchy-based foods, they actually manufacture alcohol. A recent article in a newspaper talked about a woman who got pulled over, breathalyzed, arrested for alcohol. She doesn't drink alcohol. She never drank alcohol, and went to the doctor, and the doctor said, I can't believe it. Your body's producing alcohol. And she says, well, every morning I wake up with brain fog. I feel horrible. And when they gave her antifungals and reduced the fungal load and the yeast load in her gut, her blood alcohol levels and breathalyzer alcohol levels went away. So, there's a lot of people that don't drink, but don't realize that their body is producing alcohols that could benefit from long-term exposure to those alcohols, even in small doses, by taking a supplement like this. The other one is more of a question to you.
Sure.
What about NAFLD? We know that diabetics develop infiltration of fat in the liver. We know that this molecule may not only reduce the accumulation of fat in the liver from alcohol, but does it have an effect on people who aren't drinking alcohol but have their livers being infiltrated with fat?
And Josh, I'll go out and let you take that because
you're the liver guy.
Exactly.
Well, it's touching on his dissertation project, and we've gotten some really exciting data that's promoting some of this understanding right now.
Exactly. So, DHM, it's being looked at, investigated by other labs, as well as we found some aspects from our studies that for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, it does seem to benefit some of that glucose metabolism, some of the lipid metabolism, regardless of if alcohol is present or not. And so, in some of those cases, some of those papers have studied some initial studies in humans, just looking at DHM in terms of fatty liver markers or any kind of stress markers in individuals that might have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And so, DHM is showing benefit there. Even from our studies, we're seeing some markers in the liver that, even though it's related to alcohol consumption, we're also seeing some benefit that might benefit, be associated with that glucose metabolism and have that strong benefit for non-alcoholic fatty liver.
Okay, so Josh, stay with me for a second with this. So there's recent research coming out on phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitors, Viagra, Cialis, and so on. They seem to also have the ability to reduce, not only reduce fat deposition in the liver, but liberate fat from the liver, which they're now saying if you combine that with exercise, you get that substrate back out into the bloodstream and you oxidize it through exercise. It could actually be used as an adjunct to a fat loss program. Do you think this molecule could do the same thing?
So, interestingly, what we're also seeing with this is a lot of the markers that we're finding in the liver are, in fact, benefiting fat breakdown in the liver, but also some of that transport into the mitochondria for energy usage. And so that's where a lot of our ideas are coming out for DHM benefiting the mitochondria in the liver. And then, of course, other potential tissues like the heart or your lungs or any other kind of muscle tissue that might require heavy mitochondrial use. Mm-hmm.
This is fascinating to me. So, this is what happens, right? I did a show recently about the benefits of taking nicotinamide to reduce fibrotic eye diseases. And when we came away from the interview, we realized that nicotinamide reduces fibrotic buildup in all tissue in the body. So, these studies always have this domain, right? We're looking for these endpoints in this particular condition. But then we find out that it has pleiotropic effects and multi-tissue effects. So it stands to reason that it should be taken for more than just the original research. And this is one of those things I have a funny feeling is going to find its way into a lot of other things because of its potential, we call it stacking, but synergistic effects with some other supplements and not necessarily related to hangover. Very fascinating. Very fascinating. So, Dr. Davies, you want to remark about this?
So, Carl, what you've mentioned there is something that your audience probably already recognizes, or starting to recognize. We, as a society, when we've tried to develop new drugs to treat diseases, we've always been one target, one disease. We're going to treat diabetes by going after at a particular target in the pancreas, for example, or we're going to go for the GLUT2 transporter. But we're understanding the biology. We're a machine. We're a massive machine, and that those drugs don't just affect a target. We're a complex organism that's taken thousands and hundreds of thousands of years to evolve, and that evolution. I think part of why this is happening is because nature is pretty smart. It says, you know what, we found something that worked. Let's use that machinery somewhere else in the body. And when your body's healthy, all those different applications work fine. But it's when you get a disease state and something goes out of whack that we start seeing a breakdown. But we can't just treat a single target. We're learning that a drug doesn't have just a single effect. It will start hitting multiple organs, having different positive effects, negative effects. That's why we have these adverse events, et cetera, for drugs. You mentioned Viagra, right? When it was first being developed, it was being developed for hypertension.
Blood pressure.
Right? Blood pressure. Yeah. And what happened?
Everybody got boners.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone knows the story, right?
It's just the truth, right, Josh?
You had 10 males, 10 young, healthy, phase one clinical trials are normally young, healthy adults, males. You had these 10 males being closely monitored because this was the first time this molecule was being tested in humans. And after about a half hour or hour or so, this story's been told so many times, the nurses noticed like 6 out of the 10 of these subjects, when they were observing them in their hospital gowns, started rolling over on their bellies. And the nurses went in and asked, well, what's going on? And they all said, well, I got this erection. I'm embarrassed.
Right.
And luckily, there was someone smart enough in that room and said, you know what? This isn't going to be very good for blood pressure, but we might maybe just hit a gold mine. And then came sildenafil or Viagra, and then Cialis right behind it. So
right.
Recognizing that we can study in vitro, and I can draw beautiful pictures of targets and protein targets, and I can show you how the molecule interacts with that in a molecular model. But then you put it in the human body, and this is why so many drugs fail. So but on the other side, this is why so many things can benefit. What got me really digging into this is, why is DHM doing so many good things? And then what are the shortcomings? What do we have to improve? Because we can talk later, but unfortunately flavonoids, one of their problems, the reason why they haven't been really successful, is that they have very poor pharmacokinetics.
Right.
They're poorly absorbed.
Very short half-lives in the body.
Short half-lives, and so you have to improve the bioavailability. The reason we've been so successful with our studies so far right now is because to do preliminary data in mice, we're doing injections, IP injections, and so that bypasses the bioavailability. We're not giving this orally; we're injecting into the gut, the intraperitoneal space.
Yeah,
and that's not going to be you're not going to do this for humans. People are not going to want to get an injection in the gut for the benefits of DHM. But it allows us to really understand the molecule, and I'm working with a colleague in Rutgers right now on developing, looking at the strengths of the molecules, and one of the areas we're working on is developing novel molecules using the basic structure of the flavonoid, but improving its pharmacokinetics.
That was actually done just recently with hanokiol, which is a form of magnolia that imparts an anxiolytic effect, but its half-life is like 15 minutes to an hour, depending on how efficient your liver is. And a good friend of mine, Justin Kirkland, who is a brilliant scientist, he modified it to be dihydrohanokiol, and now it lasts 4 to 6 hours, and it's actually effective as an anxiolytic. And we have people on this show. In fact, you'll hear a commercial on today's show about a guy who had been using benzodiazepines since he was 8 years old, and he's off benzodiazepines because they've modified this flavonoid, and made it stick around in the bloodstream longer, and it's effective, which leads me to my question here. And thank you, Ben Turner Dixon said he ordered some last week. He can't wait to use it. Also, great to see the USC family hard at work. Fight on. Obviously, he's an alum. So you call this a drug, Doc, and I thought that was interesting because most people want to call it something other than a drug, but you refer to it as a drug in your paper. Why?
Right. So so DHM is not a drug; it's a natural product, as you said. If it was a drug, we would have to go through an entirely different review process for safety and toxicity, et cetera,
right,
through the FDA. So I go back and forth. As I said, my lab works on pharmaceutics and natural products, and so I sometimes interlace. But at the end of the day, it has drug-like effects. It has drug-like effects, and we're using it to really investigate various targets to improve human health. You mentioned the benzodiazepine. One of its targets at DHM is the GABA receptor, and actually one of our projects that Dr. Jing Lang is, in fact, Josh is a co-author on this paper. It's under review right now. We've been working for several years on its anxiolytic. It looks like these flavonoids have great anxiolytic properties, but they're non-addictive. And you don't get tolerance like you would with a benzodiazepine.
Right.
I mean, benzodiazepines, don't get me wrong, these are beautiful molecules.
Yeah, but they have some horrible side effects. I mean, they cause REM sleep disorder when used for sleep long term. They actually have been linked to seizures when used long term. They are linked to memory loss, which can go away once you stop them. But stopping them is very, very difficult because the more you use them, when you use benzodiazepines longer and longer, when they wear off, the anxiety comes back stronger and stronger than it originally was. So it's these are, I understand they have a great value, and there are some people that they've got to take them, but they're not. I'd much rather go with a natural product like this if it has that same calming effect than a benzo.
Sure. Well, unless Carl, if you and I could get together and develop a benzo that Roche has never been able to. Roche has been looking at this is what made Roche what it is in Switzerland, right? This is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies. If you could take all of the beneficial effects of a benzodiazepine, get rid of all the side effects, this would be $1 billion drug, right? Because it has great potential, and it has but it's the side effects, the tolerance, the addiction, the rebound. As you said, your body gets accustomed to drugs like this, and so the receptors, the proteins, they start to change, and then you take the drug away, and it's a nightmare. I mean, diazepam was at one time looked at as the new anti-alcohol drug. It was going to be the greatest anti-alcohol drug ever discovered because it's perfect to reduce alcohol intake until about 2 or 3 weeks later, when you become addicted to the benzodiazepine.
My father was given Valium to stop drinking alcohol. And then he took Valium for a very long period of time. And when he tried to get off of it, he developed anxiety. Yep. And then he had to wean off of those too. It was horrible, but he did it. And also, I'm sad to say this, but it's true, and my audience has heard me say it 1,000 times. But when my mother was pregnant with me, she took Librium, which was one of the early benzodiazepines. And I'm sure that I'm pretty messed up for some, there's something going on in me that's probably a result of her taking Librium and smoking cigarettes while she was pregnant with me. Imagine what I would have been had she not done that. Scary thought. We have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what actually happens during hangover and what this product does to assuage the effects of hangover. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. How often do you sit with your laptop right on your lap? How much time do you spend on your cell phone? Are you in a technology-packed office Monday through Friday? Are you worried about this type of radiation? Now there's something you can do about it. GetLambs.com. This radiation has been linked to infertility in men, glandular tumors, gut microbiome dysbioses, and impaired sleep quality. Now you can provide 360-degree protection to at-risk parts of your body with radiation-proof apparel from GetLambs.com. Comfortable, breathable, and 99% effective. Go to GetLambs.com and use coupon code SHR for 20% off your order of $100 or more. That's getlambs.com, GETLAMBS.com, and code SHR. Ever wish there was a precise way to gauge your recovery from workout to workout? Or wonder if the money you're spending on your nootropic supplements are actually improving brain function? Maybe you're aging and you're noticing some changes in memory. Wouldn't being able to really test your brain be of great value? Well, now you can with great accuracy with the Brain Gauge. The Brain Gauge lets you test essential components of brain health and track your brain health history, and all in the comfort of your own home. Go to gaugeyourbrain.com and use code SHR for $150 off this amazing device. That's gaugeyourbrain.com and SHR for $150 off. Hey, this is Carl. For 14 years, you've heard me talk about Can-C eye drops, and they being the reason that I do not need reading glasses at now 61 years old. But I regularly get emails and messages from people who've been using Can-C and having some amazing results. Recently, I got an email from a fellow named Chad, who, because he was on dexamethasone eye drops for over 6 months, developed a cataract. Can-C eye drops actually reduced my cataract to the point where even my doctor has a hard time finding it. I will never stop using Can-C eye drops twice a day. I've been using them since 2008, he says. And you should be too. There is no better way to keep your eyes healthy and seeing clearly than Can-C eye drops. Go to wisechoicemedicine.com today and get on board, and we will both be looking into the future with very clear vision. Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor, strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. Ever wish there was a precise way to gauge your recovery from workout to workout? Or wonder if the money you're spending on your nootropic supplements are actually improving brain function? Maybe you're aging and you're noticing some changes in memory. Wouldn't being able to really test your brain be of great value? Well, now you can with great accuracy with the Brain Gauge. The Brain Gauge lets you test essential components of brain health and track your brain health history, and all in the comfort of your own home. Go to gaugeyourbrain.com and use code SHR for $150 off this amazing device. That's gaugeyourbrain.com and SHR for $150 off.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where brawn and brains finally meet.
Welcome back. We're talking about a magnificent little molecule that'll help you go out and party hard, but not feel like you got hit by a bus the next morning. And by the way, we have lots of questions. I will get to all of them, I promise you. We'll have time to get to all of them. So who wants to take this next question? How does this molecule work?
Go on, Josh. You. This is your dissertation. Uh-oh. We've lost Josh.
Have we? Josh. There you are. There you are.
Mute it myself.
Yeah, you guys don't have to mute anything, because I mute everything on my end. I should have said that earlier. Okay.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that question. So as I mentioned earlier, there's some aspects that we're finding in terms of that fat metabolism. More importantly, and I think you mentioned nicotinamide a bit earlier, one of the key parts that we're really trying to expand upon with DHM is that the changes in energy levels in the liver. And this is also most likely true in other tissues. That's something that we're going to need to evaluate further on. And we have found some aspects in the brain tissue. But what DHM seems to be doing is increasing those energy pools of NAD. And in doing so, those are key molecules necessary for alcohol metabolism and clearance. And so essentially what it's doing is by increasing those pools, which is something that we're working on to better understand, it seems to be increasing the alcohol clearance, meanwhile also providing a lot of that antioxidant benefits that might reduce that negative effects with acetaldehyde, which we maybe know is very toxic with alcohol consumption. So as those concentrations increase, DHM seems to be reducing those levels by increasing antioxidant enzyme expression that are going to be responsible for taking care of those, eliminating them, and eliminating a lot of the stress associated with that. But more importantly, some of those energetic effects that, again, we're trying to see that relates to the mitochondria, is something that we're also looking into in terms of its anxiolytic effects, but particularly in the liver, it seems to have a benefit in increasing the alcohol metabolizing enzyme activity, and therefore reduce those concentrations even faster.
But you realize you just said it's an anti-aging product too, because anything that increases NAD plus and reduces the nicotinamide, I'm trying to think what the enzyme is called that breaks it down. That they're saying that will help us live longer and age better. So you just said, and see, it all come a long time ago. I said, isn't it funny that the name liver has the word live in it? And we know from the origins of names and words, that's not an accident. They must have figured out a long time ago that people who had healthy livers, it helped you live longer or live better. And so what you're saying here is that this increases NAD plus, and now you're saying it's an anti-aging product. This is fascinating.
So that is definitely something we need to look further into. But yes, we are seeing the increased NAD plus levels. And of course, with that, a lot of the benefits that if you look into studies on different flavonoids, including DHM, they often try to propose that it increases the aging levels, specifically in like C. elegans worm species. And this is because it's increasing those NAD pools. And so, yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of benefit that we can really expand upon at this point. But in regards to that alcohol metabolism, this is what seems to also be influencing that activity and clearance of alcohol from the liver as well.
So, Dr. Davies, let me bring you in here to talk more specifically about the actual intrinsic heavy lifters here in this, and that is the alcohol dehydrogenase and acetaldehyde dehydrogenase. These two enzymes specifically, I would imagine they're part of the cytochrome P450 cascade, correct?
So these are enzymes that are in the liver, which is, as you know, is the main organ of metabolism for our bodies. Just think, when I was a kid, my mom once a week or twice a month, we'd have to have liver and onions. You probably had that too.
Love it. I still eat liver, a lot of it. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure it's such a good idea, because now we know that what is the liver's real job is to filter out all the toxins, right? So you get all this concentrated toxin, but yeah. So the main metabolizing enzymes in the liver for alcohol is this alcohol dehydrogenase, and if DHM only increased the rate of metabolism of ADH, that would not necessarily be good, because then we would just get greater amounts of acetaldehyde, and acetaldehyde is related to what? Formaldehyde. These are highly toxic, highly poisonous substances. And so when we were looking at this originally, the cascade, we said, well, if it's clearing alcohol, what's happening to acetaldehyde? And so we measured the levels of acetaldehyde, and sure enough, it's a two-step process that is increasing rate of alcohol metabolism, but also increasing the rate of acetaldehyde clearance. So it converts it to acetate, which is water soluble, and then the kidneys can clear it. No harm, no foul. And so that's really the exciting news about this is we now have this molecule. And when you think about alcohol poisoning, people that rush to the hospital, for example, with alcohol poisoning, we don't have any really good tools to help increase the rate of alcohol metabolism. It takes about one glass of wine, a can of beer, a shot of whiskey. It's about 1 ounce of alcohol, 80 proof alcohol, to fully saturate this enzyme, this ADH. And so every drink beyond that, you've incapacitated the body to metabolize. This is why it takes so long to clear the body of alcohol, and why we can measure BECs, blood ethanol concentrations, or BACs, blood alcohol concentrations, for example, with a breathalyzer, and then we can backtrack very easily how much alcohol you've consumed. But interestingly, keep in mind that women metabolize alcohol at a much lower rate than men. So the old mantra that men can drink a woman under the table, and with the distillers trying to take advantage of that and really promoting drinking in women now, this is really leading to some significant problems, because now we're seeing the rates of alcohol liver disease and the rates of alcohol substance abuse and other organ damage increasing much more significantly in women than men. Men have kind of plateaued. They're already up there really high levels. Well, unfortunately, women are trying to catch up. And this is the worst area to catch up with, is by drinking more alcohol.
So while it upregulates the biosynthesis of ADH and ALDH, it also increases the efficiency of how it clears. So this is really interesting because it makes the existing acetyl aldehyde and alcohol dehydrogenase more efficient, even if it doesn't upregulate the production, but it does both of these. Is that correct, Josh?
That is correct. Yeah. So with long-term administration of DHM, or as we're continuously giving these mice DHM, we're seeing it's increasing those expression levels. But yeah, at the same time, with cell culture or even just quick assays with the mice livers, we're finding that it's also increasing the activity of those enzymes with short-term responses or short-term administration of DHM as well.
So talk about the study for a second. You gave these rodents 34% of their daily caloric intake was ethanol, right?
Correct. Yeah, so they were consuming about 30% alcohol volume by volume for about an extension of 8 weeks, which is allowing them to consume, it was almost about 40 to 50 grams per kilogram of ethanol per body weight. So this is extremely high levels. These are going to cause them to be intoxicated, but not only that, with the continued consumption of this every day, this is for sure going to induce, and as you saw, it's going to induce a lot of that damage to the liver and most likely other tissues.
Now, were these just male rodents or were they commingled with female rodents? Just curious.
These were male rodents right now for our initial studies.
I would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see the effects of that much alcohol on lordosis and mating, because I wonder if they would be more prone or less prone to copulate, given that they were pretty drunk.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's some differences there, and there's a lot of other studies that we could expand on. And you touch on some good points in terms of looking at other effects that this might not only benefit, but also looking at that that high of alcohol consumption on those effects and behaviors as well.
I don't speak rodent, but I can guarantee you that this phrase was being used often in the cages. I love you, man. I love you too. Because that's what guys do when they get drunk. They start professing their love for anybody that's close to them, at least the guys I hang out with. Anyway, so it reduced fat accumulation, lipid accumulation. So we've addressed that already because that was part of the potential in treating fatty liver disease. But it also seemed to reduce some very, very bad inflammatory markers like cytokines, right? Doc, you want to take that?
Yeah. So I'll let Josh chime in also, because like I said, this is his dissertation. But when we started looking into this, once we found the initial data and that we're starting to see liver restorative effects, then the next question for a scientist is, okay, let's start looking at the molecular, look at the signaling pathways, and we know, and this is what part of what we think is causing the hangover is when your body has a reaction, immune response. A part of that immune response, IL-1, IL-8, and others, is this inflammation. We've been hearing all about inflammation with COVID, right? Because that's an immune response, the body trying to fight this off. And so you have these cytokines, and when you have these cytokines circulating, they're there to try to protect the body that's saying there's foreign invaders or whatnot. But when they get out of control, they start having bad consequences. And so part of that bad consequence with a hangover, headache, nauseous, you're tired the next day, you're foggy. And so we asked the question, can we look at some of the common markers, some of the cytokine markers that are easy to measure, and did DHM reduce those? You would predict that it should, based on the reduction of acetaldehyde, and sure enough, that's what we found.
So another really good question. Elisa just texted me with this one, and she said, "Is this dose dependent?" So in other words, and Josh, you're a young guy. I got to believe you go out with your friends, at least when there's no pandemic going on.
Yeah.
Have you experimented with this compound, and do you have to take more if you're going to drink more, or what's the deal?
For products such as the morning recovery product is one that has DHM, and that's something that I think many are familiar with. They're very good at their marketing, so it's out there, it's public. So I've taken this before, and the dose of it, or essentially the way it comes, is this little mini bottle. I think about the 100 milliliters or so.
I can show that.
Here, hold it back, Doc. Yeah, turn it around to the front of it. Yeah, there it goes. Okay. Yeah, it's like a shot. It's like a shooter, like an energy shot, like an energy shot.
Correct. So depending on like your body weight, you might want to take half of it if you're going to consume it. If you're a little bit more on the lighter end, if you're a bigger guy, you're going to want to consume the whole thing while you're doing your drinking session, or I believe at least an hour after the effect or after the fact. And in doing so, that's going to help, prevent a lot of the hangover symptoms. And interestingly, what other people will also report is that they don't feel as intoxicated.
Yeah, so you could drink more.
Exactly.
See, I got a brilliant idea, guys. We have to do this, okay? So we have to get bars to start selling. Remember the when they started mixing Red Bull with vodka? Okay.
Yes.
We need to mix this with an alcohol, so you just never get drunk. You end up burning up $1,000 a night at the bar. You just keep throwing them down. You're like, I'm not drunk yet. Give me another one. I'm not drunk yet.
That's
So
true.
one of the jokes that
Josh
we have
is laughing.
is one of the jokes that we have is, you're taking DHM and you're drinking a 25-year-old McClellan's or something. You're wasting your money.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because it's burning through the alcohol. But I do want to bring to your audience is, and this is the criticism that we've gotten in the past when we're trying to develop these hangover remedies, for example. We're not trying to promote bad drinking. What we're scientists that we realize that there are 17, 18 million people in this country alone that are abusing alcohol every year. That's not going away. So let's see if we can't find ways to reduce that risky drinking or reduce the consequences of the risky drinking until they can change their drinking patterns. And when we talk about hangover, people, and we've talked about this in, I think, our article a little bit, but you think about the side effects the next day. You're foggy, you're kind of slow. Now think about yourself being in a crane operator that's 16 stories up, operating a heavy crane, and you're
hungover from the night before. Yeah. Listen, we had the commercial pilots who were using the oxygen before they would get in the cockpit to fly to try to sober up from the night before. This would be a great thing for them. They could use this and you'd be safer on that plane. So real quick, before we take our last break, and then we're going to start answering questions. So if I was going to go out drinking, should I pre-treat with half a bottle and then after I've gone out drinking, drink the other half a bottle so that I've prepared my liver? I won't get as drunk because I may have to drive later. On top of that, I'm going, and I know neither one of you are supporting the idea of drinking and driving. That's not my point. But is it worth pre-treating and post-treating as opposed to just waiting till I'm done at the end of the night and then taking it?
So what I would suggest is these little 3 ounce or 3 ounce bottles. They're not that expensive. We've done toxicology on these where we've poured this stuff down the rats. I mean, unbelievable concentrate. This stuff burns out so quick. I would take a bottle before you're drinking, and I would take an extra bottle after the fact. The more labs, when they were first starting to market this, I don't know if they're still doing it, but they had it in like the Ubers and whatnot. They did have it at bars. They were trying to get it out and market it in different places. What I would tell as I told you when we were talking privately ahead of time, I wasn't using it for alcohol, but I was using it because of my inflammation when I was having that deep bronchitis. I just chug a bottle. It tastes good. It's sugar-free, no calories. It's take advantage of it because it's been formulated to somewhat be absorbed into the bloodstream. Much better than some of the other products that are out there right now. And
you guys are not receiving any. You already told me this. You guys receive no remuneration for the promotion of this. You're all about the science. There's no. You're not promoting this product or any other particular product because you got any kind of vested interest.
No, we. I don't have stock in in fact, when I first started partnering with this company, I had a stock option that I declined because I wanted. They did donate some money to the lab.
Pure science,
unrestricted funds. In fact, I think we had a bit of a falling out because I said, "Look, I'm doing the science. A donation means that we do the science." But it's a great product. It works, and we're trying to promote it to get it out there because it does what they claim. It reduces hangover, but also has those liver protective effects. And yes, we get no money for this. No stock. No kudos. Nothing from the company.
So I want to take our last commercial break for this segment and bring on some of the questions we have lining up here. Then later in the show, people love my critical thinking as it relates to this pandemic and my rants. I'm getting more and more emails. So at the end of the show, after my guests are gone because, trust me, they don't want to be on the air with me when I do this stuff. They want to say they don't even know this guy. We don't even know. We never met him before the show. But I have a good rant for you today as it relates to the pandemic. So we're going to take one quick commercial break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Men and women, you've heard about hormone optimization. Do you feel like it's something you want to look into? RenewLifeRx.com is the place to start. Their doctors can help you with the solutions. RenewLifeRx.com has a simple process for lab work, consultation, and taking a deep dive into where your hormone levels can be improved. Superhuman Radio listeners get 30% off your initial lab work and consultation. Go to RenewLifeRx.com to schedule your no-obligation phone consultation today. Feel younger, get in better shape, and be more productive at RenewLifeRx.com. New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at Synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Imagine if you had a digital twin, one that you could compare your own health and fitness outcomes to, one that showed you whether or not the things you're doing, food you're eating, or drinks you're drinking are actually working for you or against you. Well, now you can. The first ever advanced epigenetic saliva test that compares 20 million different data points of your DNA to help predict what is aging you faster or keeping you younger is being introduced to my audience at a 70% discount from the normal price. Go to seeds.md/epigenetic-test today to learn how to get your own digital twin that will help you take the steps to live longer and stay stronger. Don't wait, because this is a limited time offer not available anywhere else. Once these tests are gone, they're gone. Again, go to seeds.md/epigenetic-test today to learn more. Crank your muscle gains to new heights by transforming every gram of protein you eat into 3 grams with Masszymes. With 100,000 HUTs of protease per capsule, Masszymes increases your absorption of key amino acids, resulting in stronger, healthier digestion of proteins and certain vitamins that not only multiplies the impact of the protein you eat, but can also repair a damaged intestinal wall. Go to Masszymes/SHR for 10% off. That's MASSZYMES.com/SHR. I love beef. And if you love beef, listen up. I've discovered the best tasting beef in the world, and that's not an exaggeration, at Piedmontese.com. The Piedmontese breed is famous from Italy for being lean and unbelievably tender, with half the fat and calories of traditional beef. Even typically tough cuts are tender when it comes from the Piedmontese cows. And for the first time ever, Piedmontese cows are being raised here in the USA. Get 2 free 10-ounce New York strips when you purchase $50 or more at Piedmontese.com with code SHR. Go to PIEDMONTESE.com and use code SHR today. You will never eat any other type of beef ever again.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
We're going to have Joe and Ben from Piedmontese Beef on, I believe it's the 20th of this month. You need to tune in because there is no other beef in the world. First of all, real quick, the Piedmontese breed from Italy is a myostatin null cow and bulls, which means that they have unrestricted muscle growth. But here's the interesting phenomenon about myostatin null, because we've been talking about myostatin on this show since I had Se-Jin Lee talk about it when he discovered it and thought he was going to solve a lot of neurodegenerative diseases. The muscle produced in myostatin null animals have impaired collagen production. And collagen is what makes muscle meat tough. These are the most tender cuts of beef, even if it comes from the shoulder. I mean, the shoulders are typically, that's cube steak. No, it's like filet. Every piece of meat from these cows is like filet, and it's rich and it's delicious. And they are raising them here in the United States. I got an email from somebody saying, hey, Carl, what are you doing? They're running out of beef. I'm not running out of beef. Ben and Joe from Piedmontese.com NewYorkStrip.com, deliver it right to my door. And if you use the code SHR, you'll get 2 free 10-ounce New York strips with an order for as little as $50. It's insane. You got to check them out. Okay, now let's work some questions then. So we're going to work right from the top down in the order that they came. So John Peaks is a good friend of mine. He's an over-the-road truck driver. He's asking me if you think the quality of alcohol plays any role in its ability to create a hangover. Who wants to jump on that?
Go on, Josh.
Oh yeah. So yeah, depending on that quality of alcohol, the way the fermentation process exists, even if you look at brown liquors versus clear liquors, there's this difference in this production of congeners that are going to be produced in that process. And these are one of the multiple ways that might contribute to a hangover. But yeah, depending on that quality of alcohol that's being consumed, of course, the amounts of it, that's going to increase that likelihood of the hangover. And so this is mostly seen with darker liquors. So scotch, whiskey, especially poorer quality scotch and whiskey, you're going to have higher accumulation of those congeners with the fermentation process or the alcohol production process. And so with that, there's also increased likelihood of hangover. So definitely the type of alcohol that's being consumed can have a higher influence on whether you get a hangover or not.
So we know sugar impairs liver function. We know that from type 2 diabetics. Do you think sugary alcohol drinks are a double whammy?
Yeah. So yeah, one of the common complaints is, higher sugary beverages with alcohol are going to increase the likelihood of the hangover. And that's due to the fact that in factors associated with that glucose metabolism, on top of the absorption process of alcohol, that's going to also increase those kinds of concentrations and increase that likelihood as well.
And remember, and also keep in mind that, a lot of these things that we're talking about are in a generic person, right? So we have individuality between us. And Josh might metabolize alcohol differently than I do, differently than Carl does. And so some of this, but we can tell you in general why sugary drinks or why the cheaper alcohols. When I was in the Air Force 30 some years ago, George Dickel down in Texas was a common one, the bourbon that we used to drink all the time. But it really is, it's part of it is the individuality of the person and the way that the drink is presented to them.
But DHM should help in all those cases, bottom line.
We in fact, one of the areas that we really want to look at is like what you call the Asian flush, people that are deficient in ALDH1, to see if it actually might even help, might improve those individuals that have really suffered. So
wait a minute, it's called the Asian flush?
Right. Have you heard of the Asian?
Do they actually get flush from drinking alcohol?
Right. So the Asian flush, Carl, it was started originally a deficiency in ALDH1, which is ALDH1 or 2, Josh. I always get these two mixed up now. DH2.
Mm-hmm.
And then because one is mitochondria and one's the other one. So. And this is 500,000 years ago, started up in Upper China and then has worked its way through the world. So it's not just Asians now. But depending on the severity of the ALDH2, the deficiency, some Asians just get mildly flushed. Some get deadly sick. And this is the same principle with disulfiram, which was the first anti-alcohol drug developed in the 50s, was that it blocked the conversion of acetaldehyde to acetate. And so you block that ALDH2 and the person gets a buildup of acetaldehyde. They get deadly sick. They start to vomit, barf, etc. And the idea was they quit drinking alcohol. Unfortunately,
I have a good friend, and we thought it was just white wine, red wine, and maybe it is, but she gets very flush after having wine, and she's never had this problem before. Are these enzymes part of the P450 cytochrome cascade, Josh?
So they're a separate set of enzymes, but on that note, there is one, the CYP2E1 is going to be one that's involved, but that's more so in cases where the individual is constantly consuming alcohol, and what's going to end up happening is your ADH
depleted.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's going to start.
But could you, as you age, lose the ability to create the ALDH2 and now all of a sudden develop Asian flush?
So on that note, if one of the common factors of aging is this depletion of NAD pools, and this is highly contributed to a lot of the neurodegenerative diseases that are being studied at this point. So in that case, if that is applicable in the liver, I'd have to see if that's also being confirmed as well. But if NAD levels are also being depleted in the liver, not only just from alcohol consumption, but aging, then it's possible that the efficacy of the enzymes might change as well. So that is potentially something, but it might need to be further evaluated before confirmed.
So Josh Hartnett says, back when I did drink, parenthetically a lot, I tried DHM and I do know it works. I chose not to drink anymore. I put a 40-year limit on myself. Yeah, that is funny. But anything that helps with the breakdown and filtering and liver function, especially a natural product, well, that's just good news. And I agree with him about this because we know that liver function is very, very closely tied to better aging. So I would agree with him there. The next one is a question, I think. Let's see here. He said, Carl, could you stack this with activated charcoal and or thorn? I don't know what thorn is. I always take activated charcoal and add thorn. I always thought thorn was a brand, not a product, but maybe I'm wrong. I always take activated charcoal and add thorn to it. If you guys could talk about that. Do you know what he's talking about, thorn?
No, but we used activated charcoal. And for example, when a patient comes into the emergency room, we would use activated charcoal to try to help filter out the alcohol. So you can use it in that regard. But the thorn is probably some natural product.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I apologize, David or Carl. I guess this is David asked the question. I just don't know the answer on that.
Well, just looking at it real quick, it looks like thorn is a product used for electrolyte balance. So, I mean, in cases where hangovers, involved, one of the reasons is the electrolyte imbalance. So,
yes.
Restore some of those electrolyte balances. If you're using a sports drink beverage to try to recover some of those electrolytes, that has been reported to have a lot of effects, but it's not very well confirmed at this point. But a lot of people have been finding benefits with that as well.
So Scott Lawler, who listens to the show quite often and has been a big supporter of the show, he and I share something in common. We're fascinated with peptides. I've been doing shows about peptides since 2006, not just growth hormone, but all of these novel peptides that are coming out. And one he's asking a question about specifically is one that I use daily for prophylactic value. And he said he wonders if you know any theories regarding BPC 157. Do either of you know what that is? No.
I did a quick search. I see that it's a peptide used for a lot of anti-inflammation. It looks like it seems to benefit acute intoxication. So there's several properties associated with it, but I'm not heavily, comfortable with that or understand the topic.
BPC.
Others have looked at peptides, and there's some Gell runs and some of these others that are being looked at. A lot of the challenges with the peptides is getting them into the brains. To get them into the brain, if you're going after the target in the brain itself. Inhalation. That's right.
No. I'm going to tell you a fascinating thing. So I'm dark. I'm Southern Italian. I'm actually 14% Northern African, and so I'm dark to begin with. But I've been experimenting with. So I'm sure you've all heard of melanotan 2. University of Arizona created it to help fair-skinned people pre-treat their skin before going on vacation. It's basically a melanocortin stimulating hormone, but 1,000 times stronger. You take very, very small doses daily, like 25 to 50 micrograms. You develop a tan before you actually go to the beach. The problem with it is nausea. The more melanin you have in your skin, you develop nausea. You get flush. You can't sleep because melanocortin, the melanocortin hormone cascades they have amazing benefits, but also they're very, very neuroactive. When you lay out in the sun, it gives you energy and so on and so forth. So what I did was I took melanocortin, I took melanotan 2, and I mixed it with sodium chloride solution with a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of benzyl alcohol, and I put it in a metered nasal spray bottle, and I take 50 micrograms intranasally every morning. It wakes me up, first of all. It has profound anti-inflammatory effects on the brain, and it's making me tan again. I'm getting tan without the purple lips. When I used to inject it, my lips would even turn purple. Yeah. So I would think that BPC 157 intranasal, Scott, if you go back to some of my videos on YouTube on how to make your own DIY intranasal peptides, you may want to make some BPC 157 and take it for a ride one night after going out drinking and see what happens. There you go. Goes right to the brain. Right to the brain. There you go. Hey, Doc, I should come to your class and I could learn pharmacology.
Yeah, love to have you in one of my pharmacology courses.
Yeah, he said, okay, it's molybdenum glycinate is what thorn is. Yeah,
Right. So what you can see is there's a lot of these products that are out there, and what we're trying to do is bring science. We're trying to understand, in our case, DHM, but we're also looking at other products, other natural products, is to bring the science that the way we're trained to try to have a better understanding, to find out what are the key signaling proteins, the key signaling enzymes, etc., things that we can manipulate to have the best outcome for the general public. But there are a lot of products out there, and what we're trying to do is filter through the noise and give, rather than poo-pooing natural products, to identify why they work, explain why they work, and so then the individual can make the decision to buy a product or not. But at least that we have some science behind this.
This is fascinating stuff. I love it. I'm gonna get some of the stuff that you showed in the bottle. I'm gonna give it a run because I can no longer drink alcohol unless I'm willing to accept the fact that for the 2 days after I'm gonna feel horrible. And so I'm going to give this stuff a run. I know that Elisa hates drinking alone now because we'll go out to dinner and I'll pour a glass of wine and I won't drink it. But I don't want to be antisocial. But the reality is I've always loved drinking. I feel like it lubricates the soul and makes you more interesting, or at least you think you're more interesting. I don't know which one it is, but I'm going to give this stuff a try. I really appreciate you guys coming on the show and talking about this compound.
Oh, thanks so much, Carl.
Hope you enjoyed it, and please, I know you're working on something else. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but when you guys start working on the anti-caffeine stuff, I'd like to know more about that.
Sure. And be sure to tell your audience, I'm always receptive to emails. It's ddavies@usc.edu. I'm happy to answer questions. I will give you the straight answer that I know. So if any of your audience would like a follow-up or want more information about one of these products or why do we think it works, we'll continue this line of investigation. So I'm happy to address those questions.
Thanks so much. And thanks for being here today. And stay COVID-free, guys, okay?
COVID-free, and I'm going to get some of that. I guess it's Legends. Is it your
eatlegendary.com, Legendary Foods, and also try the Piedmontese beef. I promise you'll never eat any other kind of beef.
I'm telling you, I'm listening to your show and I'm already getting sold. Thanks so much.
Oh, you know what else? We have a device that is basically a $10,000 brain assessment device that looks like a mouse that sits on you, and you can actually measure plasticity, your learning capacity, everything right on your table. You'll never hear the products that are on my show because I have the most intelligent audience in the world. They're all interested in being stronger and living longer. All right, guys, we'll talk again soon. I promise. We're going to take one quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to give you a rant on some of the things I want answers for as it relates to COVID-19. Stay tuned. You've heard about blood. Oh, that's not right. Hold on a second. There we go. There we go. You've heard about blood flow restriction training since 2006 on SHR, but you're still on the fence. Well, here's the push. BFR is more effective at building muscle than anabolic steroids. That's right, I went there, but it's because it's the truth. My experience with the Be Strong blood flow restriction system is proof to me, and now I'm asking myself why I waited so long. You'll see undeniable changes in the targeted muscles in days and weeks like nothing you've ever tried before. I will never stop using them. Give Be Strong a try. Go to bestrong.training/super-human and use code SHR for 10% off. Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor? Strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000. Or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon One banner ad today.
7,451. That's how many people kick the bucket, buy the farm, or cash in their chips every day in the United States. Yep, that means 5 people are going to meet their maker during this commercial. And no, our commercials are not the cause. Half of those who punch the clock for the final time will do so without life insurance. Call Big Lou at Term Provider before you are number 7452. If you're a 50-year-old male, a tad porky with a touch of diabetes, $1 million of term life insurance may only cost about $200 a month. With more verified 5-star reviews than any other Lou on the radio, Big Lou has saved thousands of people thousands on their term insurance premiums. Stop procrastinating and call Big Lou today at 800-560-0301. 800-560-0301. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He doesn't want to be number 7,452. Call 800-560-0301 or biglou.com.
Quest Nutrition makes bars, cookies, chips, and pizzas out of complete dairy-based proteins. Our products minimize net carbs and sugar without sacrificing taste. Each delicious chocolate-flavored chip, cookie chunk, and crunchy crumble is custom-made to maintain Quest macros. It's time to enjoy foods that work for you, not against you. It's time to enjoy your Quest.
Spit that out right now. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Welcome back. So I'm just like you, and I really mean that when I say that. I know that I have a lot of the same thoughts you're having about this pandemic. Case in point is, since I've been wrapping up pretty much every show the past couple of weeks with a little rant or a little opinion or a question, I'm getting emails from people and they're going, dude, I mean, even some of them are posting live while I'm making the comments. They go, I know exactly what you're going to say. And it's because we're all critical thinkers. We don't just take what someone tells us and go, oh, okay, well, that's it. And we definitely don't agree when somebody tells us just shut up and obey, because that is antithetical to what we are all about in this audience. Hell, you don't even take everything I say. People challenge me on the things I say, and I love that. I love that. I'm not one of these people who thinks I'm a guru, and if you tell me I'm wrong about something, I want to fight you over it. I'll look at your opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong a lot. Trust me. Just look at the path of my life. I've made a lot of stupid decisions. So here's what I want to know. We hear that, and we've all heard this so many times, the CDC owns the patents on X number of vaccines. I've lost track, 28, 30, 32. I hear different numbers all the time. I want to see the budgetary line item in the federal budget that shows what money, if any, maybe it's nothing. Maybe they own these patents and they just want to own control of it for security purposes. Like, oh, we can't let other people own these patents. They'll take advantage of the American people. It could be that. It really could, right? Or it could be that the government actually makes money, right? They take these patents, they license them out. They pay these pharmaceutical companies to create these vaccines. They own the patent. We own the patent, right? The American people, we own the patent, right? CDC runs on tax dollars. So every one of you takes a penny, maybe, out of every dollar you pay in taxes and pays their payrolls, right? So theoretically, or truthfully, we own the patents, the American people. And as such, we should know, how much are we making on those patents we own? We don't want the money. Not like we're saying, oh, you owe us money, but shouldn't we at least know? Don't the board of directors, aren't we like the board of directors? The government works for us. We pay their salaries. Shouldn't we know if those patents are making money or not? Is the government getting money, licensing? Because don't forget, we indemnify the pharmaceutical companies that make vaccines. They don't get sued when there's a problem. Regardless of, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I actually think vaccines have a place. We know that hormesis is real. We know that being exposed to something builds up your ability to resist it. We know this. So I'm not an anti-vaxxer. But all I want to know is, what does it mean for the CDC and therefore we American people, what does it mean that we own the patents on these vaccines? Why do we own them? Is it just because we want to control them so that other people can't and then take advantage of the American population? It could be that. Or do we own them through the CDC because the government makes money on the companies that sell the vaccine? Oh yeah, we own the patent, so every time you give a vaccine, we get 10 cents. And what does that number mean to the government? We should know that. And here's why. Just like at the beginning of the show, in the middle of the show that I just did with these two gentlemen, early on, I asked them, are you guys working for this company? And no, we don't. In fact, there's lots of companies that use this compound, DHM, in an anti-hangover product. It's not patented. Anybody can make a supplement with it. And they just happen to use this one because for themselves. I want to know that. If you guys are making money on this, then we're not going to talk. We're not going to mention the product. I'm not plugging somebody's product so you can make money. I want to talk about the science. In that same fashion, the government is in the position to both select, advise, and in some cases even mandate, like they're trying to do. They're trying to force people to get vaccines now. Do they have a vested interest to do that? Are they looking at it like Fauci? You know, I don't think Fauci's making money in his pocket, but if he's running a company and his compensation plan is based on the profitability of the company, then indirectly he is making money for the success of the company. And if the CDC owning whatever number of vaccine patents that they own while he was in charge, then and is he with the CDC or the National Institutes of Health? I forget, but my point still stands. I know that people are going to say, oh, Carl, you know what we're talking about because he's not the head of the CDC, and maybe I really don't pay a lot of attention to politics, to be honest with you. But my point is, if the American government, through the CDC, which means the American people, own these patents, shouldn't we know how much money they make for us? And if they are making money for the government, then shouldn't they be excluded from being in a position to require them or suggest them? Because isn't that then a vested interest for profit? This is a legitimate question. And you should be asking yourself this too. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. Don't you want to know if the government is doing the right thing by investing in these patents, by owning these patents? Are they protecting us from losing control of them? Are they international patents where other countries can't make them and just rip them off? And if so, do they have to pay a licensing fee to use these patents? And if they pay a licensing fee, how much money does the CDC and other government agencies make from that? And who's overseeing that? And is anybody seeing this from a standpoint of forcing people or recommending people get vaccines so they can make money? Because think about it. All day long we hear about the seasonal flu. Get your vaccine, get your vaccine. Well, the value of that advice may be good, but it somehow becomes tainted if the person telling you to get the vaccine is actually making money from you getting the vaccine. So I'm just asking this question. It's just a logical question. Just a logical question. Who is benefiting? Who is profiting How much are they profiting? And why do they own these patents in the first place? You know, is it because of control or is it because of profit? And we need to find this out. I wish I had an investigative reporting team that I can send after this and find it, because I looked for these numbers for a while the other day. And I got bleary-eyed looking at federal budgets. I couldn't find anything. I could find individual line items for the NIH and the CDC and the FDA. I could find those budgets, but somewhere hidden in those numbers is the vaccine patent related information. So if anybody's listening to the show and you can find that information for me, I'll put you on the air and we'll do an investigative reporting piece. And it doesn't have to, and I'm not saying, oh, we're going to go anti-government. It may be that the government, because I suspect this, I think the reason they want to patent these really important things is because they wouldn't want a China to hold the patent and then have control over the vaccine, potentially saving lives here in the United States. That makes perfect sense to me. But is that really it? Is that really it? So anybody out there who wants to take this upon themselves, email me at onair@superhumanradio.net. If you start digging around, you find information, you'll come on the show with me and I'll ask you those questions, those same questions, and then you answer me. No, Carl, they don't make any money, but they do patent them because they want to control them so that they don't fall into the wrong hands. That's the altruistic government that I want to believe in. That's what I want to hear. So prove me wrong. All right, that's it for today. We have great shows the rest of the week. It's already Tuesday. I can't even remember. Oh, this Friday we have a pep talk. Dr. Elizabeth Yerth is going to come on. We're going to talk about GHKCU and other GHK peptides, their ability to regrow hair and other benefits that they have. So that's going to be good. Yeah, look, Christine, who I know, says, I'd love to have an independent investigation team. I would. If you think you can do it, anybody, I don't care who you are, email me. And I'll give you the tasks and you do the reporting and literally become a journalist right now on this show. I would love it. Please help me because I want to get these answers for the audience. I just don't have the time to do it myself. I'm dancing as fast as I can. Christine, maybe it's you. Maybe you're the person that can do this for me. I would love nothing more. All right, look, we'll see everyone tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Please share the show, especially this one. Save people the aggravation and the ill effects of a hangover. And like I said, it doesn't have to be the product they talked about. There's lots of DHM products out there. I have found out lots and lots of them. Elisa is looking through them for me, in fact. All right, see you tomorrow. Share the show. Thanks a lot.